Good morning, everyone. Today's Tuesday, the second day of Hanukkah. Um, Hope everyone's doing well and seeing the nisim and flows that this week of Hanukkah brings to the world. Um, Today's shiur is sponsored by the Nishmas Aaron Nachum and Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Morchav and Shepsel Bracha Sarva Shmuel Leib, Moshe Ben Yosef Ben Hashem Sal Haben Aliyah. And Refuah Shlema for Adasar Bas Leah, Chana Pesel Bas Yenta, Yisrael Ben Rachel Leah, Rachel Bas Pesel Zelda, Avram Yisrael Ben Risha, Chaya Bas Dova Bela, Refuah Shlema, Min Hashemayim, First Nevis of Zaguf, Beso Shachal Yisrael. And this week's shiur is sponsored by my dear friends at Everest Equity. If you need a new mortgage for your home, they are the ones to contact. Thank you for supporting our shiur and Atzlacha in all their endeavors. Okay. Um, Today's a short Perek Yudala. We're at the halfway point of the Sechah Shabbos. No, we're past that. I'm sorry. Sechah Shabbos is 24 Perekim. We're in Perek Yudala. We're more than halfway through the Masechta. Baruch Hashem. Today's a short Perek. Perek Yudala Mishnah Aleph. We're continuing with the topic of trapping animals, or discussing the topic of trapping animals. We started yesterday, I think. Today we're going to talk about the Shmona Shratzim. Shmona Shratzim, Hamurim B'Torah, the 8 species of Shratzim that are mentioned in the Torah, which convey tumah when they are dead. These shratzim are a weasel, a mouse, a toad, a hedgehog or porcupine, a type of lizard, two types of lizards, a snail, and a mole. All these, which are spelled out in Vayikra, Perek Yud Aleph. All these shratzim, Hatzadan, one who traps them on Shabbos, V'achava Bahen, one who bruises them on Shabbos, Chayev is Chayev for B'machal Shabbos, because as with all the other malachas, one is Chayev for bruising only if he intended to it for a constructive purpose, such as to feed the blood-filled flesh to his dog. If his intent was destructive, such as to inflict injury or pain on the animal, he is not chayiv, though it is definitely forbidden to do something like that. So he's chayiv for bruising them because he had caused blood to leave its place in the flesh of the animal and collect under its skin. Sometimes when you get like a blood test and they don't do it right, then for like a few weeks afterwards, you'll see like a black and blue mark, which is like blood that coagulated like outside the blood vessel, so the vein. And it takes a while for it to go away. So that's a similar thing over here. If you do that, if you cause a bruise to an animal on Shabbos, the person is chayiv. Ushar shkatz, but regarding all other vermin and crawling creatures that are not listed in those 8 and do not convey tumah, the chala behem pater, and so someone who bruises them on Shabbos is pater, and therefore no malacha of extracting has occurred. And if one traps them for a specific need, he is chayiv for Shabbos. However, if he traps them not for any specific need, pater, he is pater because these animals are not commonly trapped for their use. Okay. Chaya va'of shuso, wild animals and birds that are under one's control. Atzad Potter, one who traps them is Potter, because these animals are, he owns them. Therefore, he's not considered to be trapping. Like if you have a bird and the bird, you own the bird, and the bird is gets out of the cage and flies around the house, you still own the bird. So you could get according to this, you could get the bird and put it back into the cage, and that's not a problem with trapping. And to get a bird from outside, like a wild bird, and trap that, and that's a problem. And one who bruises them is chayiv for being Shabbos, because like the Yitzie, the wild animals and birds also have thick skin. Um, okay, so we're talking about the skin over here, because they're. All right, whatever. Mishnah base. Here we go. Ein osin helmi b'Shabbos. One may not prepare brine. Now we're talking about the malacha of ma'abed, tanning. So one may not prepare brine, a large quantity of salt water on Shabbos, because that's usually used to pickle vegetables. The Chachamim asked it because it appears that they'll be using it to pickle vegetables on Shabbos. Pickling is usher on Shabbos, according to the Baran, because it's similar to the malacha of tanning. Tanning, preserves the hides. The pickling preserves foods, and therefore it doesn't match on the derisive level, but it does. But it's like a tolda of it on a derbanan. Avahu also who as mehamelech, but he may prepare salt water, a small quantity of salt water, like if you're using for the Pesach Seder. Really, the Pesach Seder on Friday night, you should prepare the salt water from before Shabbos, but according to the Mishnah, you could prepare a small amount of salt water. V'tovel pita, but v'tovel pito, and you can dip your bread into it, or add it to a cooked dish. Since he prepared only a small amount, it is clearly evident that he intends to use it only to flavor his food and not to pickle food with it. Rabbi Yossi says, "Hello, who Hilmi ben Meruba ben Muat, but is it not brine? Whether it is a lot or a little, it's still considered brine. So regardless of the quantity, according to Yossi, they are both still salt water, and that people are going to assume that salt water is mutter because of its small amount, and conclude that any forbidden Shabbos activity done in a small amount is mutter. Why is it only for this thing? Therefore, even the preparation of a small amount of salt water must be prohibited, and that's why we don't prepare the salt water on Friday night for the Seder. We do it before Shabbos. Rather, this is the type of salt water that is permitted if one to prepare. No staying shem and first he adds water. First he adds oil to the water, and then adds the salt, or he first adds oil to the salt and then mixes them with water. This oil prevents the salt from mixing properly with the water, thereby weakening the strength of the salt in the mixture. When the mixture is made in this way, it's obvious that it will not be used for preserving food and is therefore permitted. This is a little bit of a problem when it comes to cucumber salad, because cucumber salad is prepared with vinegar, salt, and all those things. We do that on Shabbos, you might have a problem with this malacha. Again, this is not a halachic shiur, so consult your local posik for a psak on this question, but it's definitely worth discussing. Mishnah Gimel. The next two Mishnah is Gimel and Dalet. That's all for today. Talk about preparing medical treatments on Shabbos. We were concerned about doing medicinal um, you're creating the medicinal treatments because you have to grind up the different components. That would be a tolada of tochin, of grinding. Therefore, they answered medical treatments on Shabbos for minor aches and pains. Obviously, if it's a life-threatening illness, then that supersedes Shabbos, and don't worry about that. But for minor aches and pains, like a headache or whatever, then that falls under tochin. Ein ochin ezav yom b'Shabbos. One may not eat ezav yom, which is a type of hyssop. Um, it was they can't eat on Shabbos because it was used medically to kill intestinal worms. The fish because it is not a food that healthy people eat. Therefore, someone who eats it is doing so only for medical reasons and is therefore prohibited to use this on Shabbos. Aval ochel hu es yoezer, but he may eat yoezer, which is pennyroyal. It was that was effective in eliminating worms in the liver. V'shoseh abu broeh, and you can drink abu broeh, which is a which is a liquid in which the wood of a branch of this tree was soaked, because many healthy people also drink this stuff. Therefore, even eating and drinking these items for medical reasons is permissible, since people will think he is doing as healthy people do. That the Chachamim answered only such treatments that are obviously being done for medical purposes. A person may eat any food that healthy people eat, even for the purposes of healing. And he may drink any beverage that healthy people drink, even in order to heal himself. He made the column except for the water of palm trees in Eretz Yisrael, because ikrim and the cup of sterility. Um, it was a medical potion that the side effects would cause someone to become sterile. Um, it was normally used to cure jaundice, and in like babies or people who had that, and it was also able to cure an abnormal blood flow in women, but sometimes it caused sterility, which is why it was usher to drink on Shabbos. Because the cup of sterility is was used only for curing jaundice, and not drunk by healthy people. Therefore, it's prohibited to do this on Shabbos. Avoshosa, who made the kalim with some, but a healthy person may drink the water of the palm trees, the liquid of the palm trees, to quench his thirst. V'sach shemen ikarin shalol refua, and he may anoint himself with root oil. His oil mixed with extracts of spices and vegetables if he does not intend it for healing, just to soften his skin. This is not normally done for medical purposes, since he did not intend it as such. It is mutter. And finally, Achoshesh Shina, one who feels pain in his teeth, Lo Yigma Behen as a chometz, may not sip vinegar through them and spit it out, because healthy people do not drink vinegar. Therefore, it's obvious that he's doing this for medical purpose or for dental purpose. Avo matbeya who metabo who kadarko. Rather, he may dip food in vinegar in his usual manner and then eat it in this wrap. And if he's thereby cured, wonderful, and has not committed any issur. Since it's common practice to eat the foods dipped in vinegar, it's not going to be considered like he's doing it for medical purposes. Another example: one who feels pain in his loins, Lo yasuf kain v'chometz. He may not smear them with wine or vinegar, because people would not anoint themselves with these liquids except in the case of medical need. And however, he may smear his loins with oil, even in order to relieve the pain, because even healthy people anoint themselves with it in order to soften their skin. Although shemen vared, but one may not smear himself with rose oil because it is expensive and is therefore used for medical purposes. And if you know, however, princes may smear rose oil on their wounds to heal them. Shekain dark and loss of bechol, because such is their custom even on weekdays, since they can afford to buy the rose oil, they can use it to soften their skin and not just to treat wounds. Therefore, in regard to princes, smearing the wound with rose oil is not an obvious medical treatment. Um, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, "Call yourself ben Melachim," that all the Klal Yisrael are like princes, and they are all permitted to smear rose oil on their wounds. Even though they might be as poor as anything, but they're considered like a princes, and it does not that Halacha does not discriminate between two different groups of people. Um, for to say the halacha, since since princes are permitted to treat their wounds with rose oil, therefore the Chacham did not answer such a treatment for any yid. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow for Perek Tezvav. Kol Tov. Happy Hanukkah.